much more.
Hello and welcome back to the Rawkode Academy. I'm your host, David Flanagan, also known across the internet as Rawkode. And this is an episode of Rawkode Live, a show where we take a look at amazing and interesting and fun, all of the above cloud-native projects to help make your cloud-native lives all that little bit easier. And today we're taking a look at a pretty cool project called Kairos. To guide us today, we are joined by two fantabulous guests from Spectral Cloud and contributors and maintainers of the Kairos project. Hello, welcome to the show. This is Mauro and Ettore. How are you both?
Hello, everyone.
Hey everyone, thank you.
All right. Let's take a wee minute just to say hello and introduce yourselves. We'll start at the top right there with you, Mauro, and then move down. Please take it away.
Yeah, so hi, everyone. I'm Mauro. I'm originally from Guatemala, but I've been living in Europe for a while now, currently in Belgium. Yeah, I'm working at Spectral Cloud as a staff engineer at the moment with Ettore. He's my boss, so I hope this goes well. Yeah, and I'm trying to put out the word for Kairos in different events. So KCDs, KubeCon, expect to see me there, and I'm part of maintainer part, I guess DevRel or something like that within the team. Yeah, and on my free time, if I have any, because of the newborn, I try to go out running or playing the guitar a little bit. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm Ettore Giacinto. I'm from Italy, head of open source at Spectral Cloud. I basically created Kairos at the beginning. And yeah, since then it grew as a very much bigger open source project. I really like working in the open, and I've been also very passionate open source contributor. So, for instance, I was an ex-Gentoo developer also. So I like to put my hands in the lower stack of the system. I like to understand every single piece. Been also playing with AI. So maybe some of you know maybe local AI, or I've been contributing to Llama C++. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm from Italy, and then Javid Runner.
Nice. Awesome. Italy and currently Belgium. I mean, if you're in Belgium, I hope you like beer, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's part of the reasons, not the only one.
Yeah. I mean, Italy has some good beer too, but I think in Europe, Belgium is probably one of the places to go. The challenge with Belgian beer is you have two and then you're ready for your bed. At least I don't know.
That is true. Yeah. Like, it's funny when people don't know that fact and think they can just drink their beers like they do somewhere else.
No, low alcohol beer in Belgium is like 6%, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, so today we're taking a look at Kairos. Which one of you would like to kick things off and just tell us a little bit of a high level, what is the Kairos project?
Maybe you do it, Tori, because I mean, you have the whole
Yeah.
vision behind it.
Yeah, so basically Kairos is Meta Linux distribution. So it's a way to streamline the management of an OS. The peculiarity is that it's vendor neutral. So it doesn't really have any, I would say, dependency on a specific OS, which basically means you can use it as a layer of your infrastructure. So if you are trying to build an immutable infrastructure, you can combine it with other pieces. So for instance, if you're used to use Ubuntu, you can use Ubuntu plus Kairos, and what you achieve is an immutable system at the end. The immutable system, it's very much different from a standard Linux system, because you cannot really write on all the the folders that you're typically used to. So you cannot just install new software with, so to say, apt-get. We're going to upgrade the system every time. So this is how it works with providing updates or changes to our running system. So you do that with this A/B mechanism, similar to Android phones, right? So where you have a new updates coming in, and you say like, yes, I want to install the new update. So the phone goes off, it applies the upgrade, and then you start with the new system. So this is how Kairos basically transform any other base operative system to, if that makes sense. So if you have OpenSUSE, you have Alpine, it doesn't really matter. You're going to upgrade those systems in the same consistent way. And on top of that, you can manage that very easily with Kubernetes. So you will find in the Kairos documentation a lot of references to run it with Kubernetes, because when it comes to managing fleets of machines, then it comes very handy to use also Kubernetes as a management platform for upgrades.
Okay. So I've got a few questions. I think immutable Linux distributions for the average cloud native developer, we're all familiar with maybe one or two, maybe not having shipped them to prod. But, I think the original one in this space was CoreOS from way back in the day, which was built on top of RPM OS tree. And then modern times, we've got Flatcar, which I think is very similar. But the reason they're built on RPM OS tree, which means they're probably stuck to Fedora and Red Hat-like distributions. But you've mentioned Ubuntu already, and almost that this is distro agnostic. So I'm going to assume that Kairos isn't using RPM OS tree under the hood, and maybe you're doing a different pattern for AB upgrades. Can you maybe go into that in a bit more detail?
Yeah, correct. So we do have specific engine built for upgrades. So it's based on container images. So every time you are doing an upgrade, you're actually pulling an OCI image which contains the upgrades. So and it's done like in a one-to-one mapping. So the same image that you can run with Podman or Docker or whatever you prefer, it's the same image that it's going to be applied in A/B style on the host. And by the way, yes, it follows also some of the concept of CoreOS and, for instance, also K3OS, which was kind of very influenced, I would say, because we have cloud config support as well. So there is like this kind of configuration mechanism extended that allows to configure the system. And yeah, basically it goes to the point that, like you said, it's distribution agnostic. So it doesn't really depend on Red Hat, RPMs, or Debs. For instance, we have Alpine flavors.
Yeah. Maybe if I can add a little bit there, one interesting fact, in my opinion, that we have there is that the new image that you're building is always built outside of the running system. Some of these mechanisms like OS root or AB root, or OS tree, are when you're applying those changes, you're applying it on the passive image that you have, so that when you restart, then that's the image that you're going to get next. But that means that you would not have an image to go back in case something goes wrong with the current image that you have. In our case, what our approach is to say you always have this passive image that you can, in case something goes wrong in an upgrade, you go back into that one. And worst case scenario, you can always have the recovery image so that you can do the Ninja OS management stuff, right?
Okay, nice. So one of the things that caught my eye on the website is, and I haven't seen this a lot before, but when you talk about immutable images and OCI, right, these things can tend to get a little bit crazy size-wise. People are not great at optimizing container files generally. But Kairos claims to also be an edge operating system, and I wonder how you balance that giving people the ability to ship essentially container images as operating systems, but also keep them lightweight and ship them to the edge. Like, how is Kairos different from the other tools that have tried this in the past?
Well, that's a good question. I would say there are a few things that we do. First, maybe the most interesting one is you don't need to always ship everything in a single image. While we do, I would say, encourage that from one sort of. You can also split down the system with system DACs extensions. So there are extension mechanisms that allows you to pack part of the image separately out of the container image building process. However, when we treat container images, we don't consider all the layers, so to say. We just flatten the image that it's being used, if that makes sense. So in terms of if you are maybe not well used, to optimize size of images, you don't really have to take care of that unless you are adding a lot of binaries that you mean to add in the image. So for instance, for a specific use case that you have, I don't, for instance, I'm thinking about NVIDIA Jetson SDK or these kind of things that might be big. So those can be either in the image or either as an extension that you can basically sideload install separately. Like if I have to talk into Android words. So something that you install separately and you manage separately or out of the OS lifecycle.
Well, one thing that I've been thinking lately is that the way I see Kairos is like it's kind of an OS that when you don't need to go into the details, it steps out of your way. Like we try to come with good standards. Like in this case, for example, you will base it from the way minimal Ubuntu image, and that's what you would be building on. But in the case where you really need to go to the nitty details, for example, you really need a small image, you can go and remove firmware yourself that you're not going to need. So it's as flexible in that way, we could say.
Okay. 2 more questions, and then we will get hands on the keyboard and start guiding people through the documentation. Now, right on the homepage of Kairos, it says you take your Linux system and a Kubernetes distribution. Is Kairos for building bespoke Kubernetes images, or could it just be generic Linux images? Like, who is this applicable to? Who should be paying attention to the project?
That's a great question. So it really doesn't have, I would say, a specific preference. It really is suited to use it with Kubernetes because of the management layer we discussed, but you can really use it for any project. It can be even kiosks or appliance mode or running virtual machines. And these are all use cases that we see in the community as well. So it's not really about Kubernetes by per se, but it's wherever you want to simplify the management of Linux OS. And it comes also with, I would say, nice features to have, like trusted boot or high security mechanism, like Ben is quoting in the chat. Thanks, Ben. And yeah, exactly. So there are many feature set that you gain by just using Kairos on top of a standard distro.
Yes. Yeah, so Ben is in the comments saying, it's nice to hear you talk about system extensions, because a lot of people kind of just don't mention them and forget they exist or just don't want them to exist. Yes. But I think they're a very powerful thing. And in fact, Leonard Pottering's article that he wrote many years now about fitting all of this together to build like the ideal Linux distribution, I feel we're getting so close in the modern day. Ben is also saying using Kairos without Kubernetes at scale. So that is awesome. Always nice to hear from people that are using the project. Now, the last question before we go hands-on is a leading question. But, when we talk about who should be paying attention to this, right, we've got different classes of cloud native developers. there's the people that go onto the EC2 console, they spin up an Ubuntu box, they run a few commands in a shell, and that's their production. Then there's the opposite end where the people are infrastructure as code, building bespoke images, looking for immutability, etc. Right? Is Kairos a project that can be adopted full spectrum of cloud native developers? Anyone from single VM on EC2 to at scale production? And bear in mind, we're about to go hands on, so we're hoping that we get a correct answer here, right? But is it applicable to everyone? Is it easy enough for people to pick up and ship to prod?
I would say so, because we have also cloud images published, right? So we have the full spectrum covered in that case.
Awesome.
Of course, we are going to have, I'm not going to lie, I mean, on the cloud aspect, there are some optimization that we want to take, specifically into integrating with copy, because currently we have management mechanism that allows to manage the fleet in a much more granular way, I would say, because copy doesn't quite fit to the this paradigm. So we're going to work on this integration more closer. But yeah, I mean, it really have the all the bells and whistles to be from development to production, and it's been used also, yeah, of course, at the edge.
Yeah, I would add just that is if you are comfortable at the OS level, then hopefully yes. Would be mainly people who are really just at the platform level and up, who rather have something where they can just click. That might feel it's a bit of a stretch, I would say. But yeah, we try to simplify, as you were saying. From Leonard Potter, in all of these concepts that are there, we don't throw them in your face, right? Like you don't need to learn all those things in order to use Kairos, right? We did the hard work, the homework to go investigate how those things work and make the Kairos agent do them for you.
Perfect. Well, I think it's about time we share my screen and see how far we can get with the Kairos project. All right, let's get my screen up here. Perfect. So for anyone who wants to learn more, you can go to kairos.io. This is a CNCF sandbox project. Maybe we'll talk about that process later on. And there is a quick start guide, which on Rawkode Live is my favorite button, because that's where we want to show how to get started with the project. Now, there are quite a lot of, maybe not a lot, there are some prerequisites to get started with Kairos. And this is one of the challenging things with a project like this, is that you do need virtual machines and other things, right? It's not just Docker run and off you go. So for anyone who does want to follow along, just make sure you follow the documentation. I'm going to use the virtual machine manager that's not listed here, but hopefully that's all right. And I actually sat and watched this video earlier. I've got to say, this was a good demo. Like, this showed me, like, any question I had was answered by this video. So, you know,
Cool.
Feel free to go check that out for anyone watching as well. And I'll make sure the links to all of this are in the description for later. Now, because I don't trust my internet, I have downloaded this ISO here in advance. That's the only thing I've really done. And we're going to create a virtual machine and get started. Now, before I pull up the kind of VM manager and stuff like that, like what is the take home for people when they work through this getting started guide, right? What will they achieve by following this guide, and what will they understand? Who wants to tackle that?
Basically, you will get a system running with Kubernetes, but this one will be immutable. You don't have to worry about how it was made immutable. You don't have to worry about spinning up and configuring Kubernetes. It's all running there for you.
Nice. So I'm going to get a Kubernetes cluster from this virtual machine. I like Kubernetes. So I just select this. And there were memory limits. Am I going to be okay with the 220? Or should
I would put 40 for storage just in case.
Yeah, I think it did say 35, didn't it, in the documentation?
Yeah.
I know I don't need to throw 32 gig of RAM at this, but I will.
Nice.
I have 128 gig of RAM in this machine, and I never use it. So today's the day. Go. All right. So
Then in the getting started, we go through the interactive install. So if you can select that one, that would be the best.
yeah, I was wondering if I can make this bigger. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. Can I change fonts or anything? I don't use num boxes often, so
Maybe in the three dots, it allows you to.
yeah.
Not really. Oh, or configuration. No, that's
Well, that's for libvirt. So
okay.
that'd be nice. Yeah. I don't want to go messing with that. Maybe. No.
Unfortunately, I think we started in not the interactive mode. So just to mention, there are different ways to configure Kairos system. This is the default one, which would spin up. And let's say that you're in an edge location, you can take a screenshot of that QR code and give it to the terminal in another system. And then you would configure it, to simplify things, because this system might not have a keyword or something like that.
All right. So should I start this again then?
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Can't believe I broke it already and we're only 2 minutes in. I guess I could just shut it down and start it again. Yeah. All right. So
the interactive one, the third.
There we go.
Yeah. And this one, we really made it thinking on someone who is coming for the first time to the system. This is probably not what the power user of Kairos will ever use. This is the ones we use every time we're testing the system just for a quick setup. It will make a couple of questions like it's doing right now, asking in which device you want to install. By default, it will find the device with the biggest space in your system, so you can just hit enter if you want to install there, or you can select the one you prefer.
Do I want to create any users?
Right, and in this case, for example, we can say yes, we want to create a user, but many times for systems at the edge, or now that we're talking about this special purpose operating systems on the cloud, many times we say we don't even want SSH in, right? Like we want those systems to be as secure as possible, and one way of making that is by not including any users. But if you're just starting and want to play with it, having a user is a good way to test it.
All right. So we'll call our user Kairos.
Password, we normally put Kairos.
Yep, I'll do that.
Then here, if you have your keys on GitHub, you can put your GitHub user and it will fetch them for you. Otherwise, you can just hit enter and it will not put anything there.
Yeah, maybe SSH and N will be good because I can change my own font size then.
Indeed.
All right. Make the user an admin. I'm going to say yes.
Yeah.
And do we want full mesh support?
In this case, I would say no, but generally when we spin up multiple machines, you have the ability to have a mesh network between them so that they can decide who is the control plane and which ones are the workers.
Okay. Do we want K3S? If I say no, do I get another option or should I say yes?
Here, I would say yes. It's also possible to do K0S, but for the sake of testing, we've run many more times K3S since it was the one we had since the beginning of the project. So I would go with that one for now.
All right. I've also said my settings are okay. And now we have a machine, I guess, booting.
That's correct. So if you saw there was a blue part there, that is the cloud config that the installation created for us. And that's the main way in which we're going to configure Kairos system is just a traditional cloud init-like syntax. And then right now it's just going to do everything Kairos related to make sure that you have the proper partitions on your system.
Yeah. And I feel I should just have used KVM, and this would have been a bit more interesting, at least a bit more readable for you all. But we have a box now, right? Is that it? Oh, no
Yeah,
LS.
that's correct. So now you could just reboot, and then it should spin on an installed Kairos system.
Okay. Oh, I can't spell or type. All right.
Also, sometimes when you're testing this, make sure to remove the CD, because otherwise it's gonna just go again and do that. It happens all the time, because not all the systems have that automatically.
Go away. There we go. It's all annoyed I can't change the... Oh, wait. Preferences. Does this let me do it? No, it's the same sentence. All right. So now we have Kairos, recovery, remote recovery, state reset. So let's put this up.
Correct. And yeah, so those main options that you see there is basically the interaction that you get with Kairos. You get your active system, which is the one that you're normally going to be putting on. The passive one, which is in case something went wrong with an upgrade, for example, or you're going to go to your previous system, and then the recovery in case something goes really, really wrong.
All right. So, I mean, the docs cover everything we've just done. All the questions are here and the answers, even the reminder to eject the CD. And now we've done the first boot. So in theory, we should be able to SSH now into our machine once we have an IP address.
Correct.
So, all right. Whenever the IP would be available in the logs. Oh, it doesn't look like it. See if I can get the IP. I should have used KVM. So I can. I picked a password, right? So let's just Kairos.
Yeah.
Kairos
just
IP ADR. And so I can see we've got our CNI interface, we've got Flannel, and we've got our local IP address here. So 10.02.15. And I'll get it on your tab. So SSH Kairos 10.02.15. I'm assuming I can route to that from my local machine, right?
It depends on the network, I guess, that the virtual machine manager sets.
Yeah, I don't think we got a route.
Yeah, you would probably need a 192 in order to access it.
Let's see what I've got.
Maybe grep for 192.
Yeah, I'm not seeing one.
Yeah. So maybe not. Good question.
I don't even have key. Oh, come on. All right, I broke it. I should have looked into known boxes before doing this. I mean, I could always add a route, right? But it depends on what the link is. And I don't want to spend too much time debugging and trying to work this out. But let me quickly. IP. Oh, we did link. So I was expecting some sort of bridge or something, but it hasn't done any of that, right?
Sorry, what was that?
I was expecting it to create some sort of device, bridge device here, or tunnel or whatever, right, into the virtual machine, but it hasn't done any of that. So,
no, the default of I think if it's boxes, it's using at the end KVM or QM. It's using user mode network, which is completely isolated from the host. Then,
all right, there goes that plan. Shall we pop over to your machine where we can see a working demo rather than my one?
Feel free. Let me know when you see my screen.
Yeah, I'll swap that right now. All right, we got it.
All right.
Take it away.
So I am just creating, I am using Copilot here, and it will just, same thing, spinning up PM, create and run. And we should be able to see it here. Again, also interactive install.
Sorry, what software is this?
This is called Copilot, if I remember correctly. Poor guys, because now Copilot, I guess, is a bad name to have, but they chose it before. And it allows me to manage my workstation because I'm normally working from Apple computer. Okay, so let me move this thing at the bottom that doesn't let me see. Oops, sorry. There. Okay, create users, yes. Kairos. Again, GitHub, Mauro Morales. That should add my keys. Admin, yes. No mesh support at the moment, yes. K3S. Settings, okay, yes. Like I was saying, it created at the top cloud init like configuration, and now it's going through all the different stuff that it needs to do. Let me also get back to where we are here. Then we're gonna need to reboot, and then we SSH into the system. And I can see here already I'm getting an IP. So I'm gonna go into my terminal. Okay. So let's see how this is going. Yep, reboot. Let's wait a bit. Kairos already there.
Yeah, so while you were spinning this up, I did check the documentation on unboxes, and all you need to do is install libvirt daemon config network and start the system service. But we'll continue on your machine. So
Okay.
it was an easy fix.
And it's coming up now. All right, so now I can SSH in. As you see, I didn't have to add the password because it already fetched my credentials, my key from GitHub. And now here I can basically, as root, do something like K9S, where I can show, for example, the cluster that is spinning up at the moment. And that's basically it. Now you can play with your cluster.
So the default image is shipping K9S as well?
Yeah, it's something that we're constantly discussing, like what should be in the base image. For some people, it should be about stripping it completely. We think that at least to get a bit of an idea, play with it, it's nice to have it. But yeah, we haven't decided whether we should remove it or not.
So is kube control there, or do I need to use K3S kube control?
kubectl is here, so you can, I guess, do this. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Michael in the chat is asking, is this similar to Talos? So maybe we could talk about how are these different?
That's a very good question. I don't know if you want to dive deep into that one, Tori.
Yeah, I mean, there is some, I would say, crossing of the paths into the two projects because they are both trying to deliver an OS which is focused on workloads. However, Kairos is not restricted to Kubernetes, and it's not a Linux OS by per se. It's a meta Linux distribution that you can put on top of any distro. So Talos is a complete Linux distro, while Kairos is not. So they are kind of similar in the sense that both let you have a system with Kubernetes in that sense, but they do it in a very different way. And yeah, it really depends, I guess, on the use case here.
Yeah, I mean, I can add some more context there. I'm quite familiar with Talos as well. I mean, Kairos and Talos, from my perspective, both give me an immutable distribution, but Talos is very opinionated in the way they do it, and that they take over PID 1, right? So they only expose a gRPC API for communicating with the server over Talos control. You cannot SSH in; that is not an option, and there's no system D or anything like that. So the learning curve can be quite steep because you have to relearn how to do the basics. Whereas what I'm seeing so far from Kairos is I get to bring my own, Linux distribution, but I get the perks and the benefits of having something that is immutable. And then there's other things I think we're going to get to. I'm not sure, but there's building your own version of Talos can be quite challenging, and I'm curious to see how that works with Kairos. Like, how do I actually bring my own distribution, and how do I configure things to my own liking and stuff like that? So maybe we'll get to that in just a moment.
Yeah, maybe it's important to mention something we've noticed is that many projects or companies don't have the luxury of being in a completely greenfield project, so to speak, or something modern that is already cloud native ready. So they actually require either multiple workloads, and some of them might be legacy and only run on Linux, but not on Kubernetes. Moving to Kubernetes might be too costly for them, or simply not an option. Or we also see cases where some companies are already spending money on licenses with a certain provider. So in all of these scenarios, Kairos can adapt to you. Well, as you say, in the other option with Talos, it's more opinionated in that sense. The result of what you can do is probably the same to some degree with both distros, at least when it's on the Kubernetes side. But we do it in a flexible way where, for example, if you need to, I don't know, even if for you it's important the know-how of your engineers and you cannot just let go of all that you've built on Ubuntu, then you can continue working on Ubuntu.
Yeah. A clear example could be, for instance, we do provide support for NVIDIA GX Orin, and we use the upstream NVIDIA images. So that gives you a lot of guarantee that the whole stack continues to work as you expect, right? Because you test with NVIDIA images and you just use NVIDIA images as base of your OS. But then you get all the benefits of using an immutable OS, A/B system upgrades, and yada yada. So you get that extra layer also on situation where you typically wouldn't do, even with Raspberry Pi. So you could deploy Kairos on Raspberry, and you can get all the OSs you want and switch between OSs by providing a different container image. Right? So this is the kind of vision that Kairos accomplishes, and it doesn't matter what OS it is. So you could literally take whatever OS it's out there, or even build your own OS. That you could build your Linux from scratch and put Kairos on top, so you don't have to handle the upgrades for your OS. Right?
All right, let's get into some of those details there, because those are pretty bold claims. Firstly, Michael said Talos wasn't an option because of CNI limitations. So I'm going to assume the conversation here is that with, sorry, the buzzer gun, with Kairos, you can use any CNI implementation.
Yes, yeah, correct. You can use any Kubernetes distribution. So we currently support K0s and K3s, but we have also community providers like kubeadmin. So kubeadmin is supported as well. And you can build whatever provider for your specific Kubernetes distribution and have the configuration bits you really need from the whole OS stack. Right? So if you need some dependency in the system, you can just bring these in. Yeah.
Now, when you say you can bring any Linux distribution, even to the point of saying Linux from scratch, which is, I'll pop back over to here just now. Even like building your own Linux from scratch, right? I'm curious to understand how this works. So say I want to bring Arch Linux into the mix and I want to get that running with Kairos. What is it you're doing to that Linux distribution to give us this automation and configurability and immutability?
That's a good question. So, Kairos basically tries to identify which system you need to use on the image, and based on that, it's going to install the required services. On top of that, it's going to install the Kairos agent binaries and some configuration that might be required for the OS to function properly, like configuration, system settings, like users, and these kind of things. So it doesn't. It tries to play with the tools that are already there. So I can bring you an example. So Linux from scratch is a good example because I've been exactly targeting that in my mind from the beginning. So I am, as I was saying, I'm an ex-Gentoo developer, so I was always doing my Linux from scratch, right? And this system should have been working also on that. It's very much important. So Alpine works as well because we don't do any magic. Basically, we just do a very clean layout that depends on bootloaders. So, for instance, we do support grub and systemd boot, and we leverage heavily on those to do the operation that we need to do. So to say, a little bit of the logic, it's moved to the bootloader rather than OS to make it more agnostic when we do lifecycle management like upgrades.
And it's obviously not magic, right? Like there are limitations to where we can run right now. It's only systemd and OpenRC as init systems, but at least the code is written in a way that you can expand it, right? Like if you really need to run on a different init system, then it's just a matter of telling the Kairos agent how that init system works. The same thing for package management, right? Like if you bring your own distribution that you created and you also created a different package manager, of course we're not going to know how to install those packages, but the mechanism to just extend that is right there, and it makes it easy to have all the features of Kairos in your own OS.
Okay, so with that in mind then, if I said, let's share my screen and build a custom Kairos image that we can boot, is that something we can do in the next 30 minutes?
I mean, yeah, part. If we continue in the getting started, that's a bit of where we want to, what we want to do. Let me see if I have it here. So the second section of the getting started, the building and upgrading, will tell you how to create a new Kairos image based on an existing Kairos image. And then at the bottom, it says build from scratch guide. And that's the documentation we would need to follow if we wanted to do that.
All right. Let me share my screen again. So
yeah,
let's go back over here. And your screen's still on. Let me swap that over. All right. So I did follow your instructions there. We don't need to start with build from scratch. I mean, there are examples in the repo, and I think we'll definitely take a look at them. But let's go with the
getting started.
Yeah. Like just taking a base image and then enriching it through some ways. So the things that pop into my head right off the bat are, okay, what are the bases that I can start with? What are you building these images for to get people started quickly?
Yeah, for example, the example that I have there is, let's say that for some reason you need Ruby in the system that Kairos doesn't provide. And in order to do that, all you would need to do is use as from one of our Kairos images. Then in the next step of the Docker file, you would say, okay, apt-get update, apt-get install Ruby, and then do a normal Docker build for that image, and you're pretty much done. Now you can give this image that you created to the previous machine that we just installed, and it will upgrade to that system that now has Ruby in it.
Nice. So I see as a base choice of operating system, people can come to this page and they can go for OpenSUSE, Rocky Linux, Fedora, Alpine, Debian, etc. I'm going to keep things simple just because I did do a pool because it was a chunky sized image. This Ubuntu base is 2.5 gig. So why don't we just tweak this a little bit? And I can't. I mean, I could podman it. I'll just do Docker to keep it simple. I don't want to make things hard on myself again. And I'll grab this. What happened there? There. So we'll do from Koei Ubuntu tag.
One thing to notice here is if you pick images with the core, you don't get basically the Kubernetes distribution and kubectl and K9s and etc. etc.
Yeah,
so there
I
are.
Think... Sorry,
no, sorry, just to clarify, basically with the image that you're using now, we're going to lose K9s or K3s if we do upgrades.
I'm okay with that. I just want to kind of show people how they can go from a Docker file to an ISO to booting the thing, right, for some means. So, I mean, I'm hoping and assuming that anyone watching this is already quite comfortable putting together a Docker file, right? I mean, we can just do the classic example of now we have Nginx running inside of a container. So with that, what I could do then is just a Docker image build -t. Let's call this Rawkode Nginx.
You're going to need to publish it so that the system can consume it. If the system has internet, I haven't checked it. Can you validate if the VM has internet?
Well, I mean, okay, so you were suggesting that we boot up the VM that I already got working and tell it to rebase off of another image. I was going to say, like, the step that is missing from my mind is if I do this, tell me about BuildX, that's okay. I get a container image, but if I want to create that as an ISO, is that the default flow? Or are you saying you would boot Kairos core and then tell it to consume a Docker image as an additional layer? Maybe I just not understanding that.
Well, both work, actually. It's a totally valid flow, the one you're describing.
Okay, so is it easy now for me on my standard Linux machine to say, okay, let's convert Rawkode Nginx to an ISO that I can just DD onto some cloud virtual machine? Is that a common workflow, or would you say publishing the container image and using it as a layer on another Kairos image as the preferred approach? Like, what should people aspire to if they want to ship this stuff to production?
So we have dedicated tooling for that. So from the container image, basically, you can build all the artifacts you need. So for upgrades, you are okay with the container image only. So up to this point, you would just publish the container image to a registry, and then you would point the node to that image. If you would instead, create an ISO, there is the Aurora boot tool that you can point the image like this one, and it will create an ISO out from this image.
All right. What
came with the web UI. You can also use the web UI to drive this interaction.
What did you say it was called? Aurora.
Yeah.
Aurora bit. This one.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right.
All the way to the bottom, there is a web UI, or otherwise, if you want to use the CLI, there are examples of line ISO built from container images.
All right. I mean, I'm happy to use a web UI, but now that I'm seeing unified kernel images and secure bit, I mean, my interest is more than peaked. Like, we're getting into the fun stuff now. So, all right, where was that web UI? Oh, I don't see.
Ben says OCI is 1,000% easier with Kairos upgrade. I guess we're used to that flow as well.
Right,
but yeah, in this case, it's a total valid approach that you want to create your ISOs, because I don't know, you need to send them through USBs for people to go and upload because they don't have internet in those boxes, right? So it's a completely valid flow.
Okay, so I clicked on this create a custom cloud image. We've kind of done this step already. So we added Nginx. Now I can use Docker run to then create the ISO. So this is using, we've got a different registry now, right? So the Aurora boot isn't on Quay, it's on ScarfSH. I don't know what that is, but
Yeah, that you can, if you don't want to see that, you can just at the top of the page next to the sun, you can select not to have that on the left. This one, yeah, personal use, and then you will see the Quay.
all right, okay. Nice. So this just takes my current working directory, it makes it a build. Oh, no, it's taking a build directory, mounting it to Aurora boot, sets these things. All right, I don't know what that's doing. I'm just going to run it. I'm feeling brave today. Oh,
you just need to put the name of your image in where it says my custom image, and we will need to have, because this one wants a cloud config, we would need to create a cloud config as well.
All right, so I don't have a build directory. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay, because it's adding it on top of your current directory.
All right, I run a weird shell, so I will need to have this come through bash. My image. Now, is it going to have access to my local Docker image context? Or will I actually need to push this? It will, okay.
In the second line, we added the Docker socket, so you should have access to them, yeah.
Okay, and can I just remove the cloud config and say we don't care about that?
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to log in, but...
All right, okay, so...
But you can, technically you can.
All right. Sorry, I've went completely off script, and now we're just going
to... No, that's fantastic.
Now, what does this cloud config...
Yeah, you can take an example cloud config probably from the getting... I think in the getting started,
it's
I put it...
up, no? There is no example up in the docs now.
There was. There definitely was something... I remember looking at it and seeing.
Yeah. In the initial, in the getting started, if you press in configuration, go down and you will see one.
Perfect. All right. So let's just call this cloud config YAML. I'll put my username in so I get my keys. Kairos. I'm okay with all of that. All right. Now, the path and the build here is this, because this is a parameter to the container image. So is this within the context?
Yeah, you're gonna have to add it. So I need to add another volume at the beginning.
Okay. That's all right. We can do that. So I can just do pwd and call that cloud, like so. And I call it cloud config.yaml.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
Cool.
Hopefully Aurora boot isn't too big. But
no, I think this one is a lot smaller.
All right, so Michael was also in the comments saying, okay, what if I am built off of a hypervisor? I don't want container inception. Well, I mean, I think that's the path we're on now, actually, right? So, I mean, you could do this in a hypervisor. Maybe I don't understand the question, Michael. Feel free to expand on that a little bit.
What if I'm building off of a hypervisor? Like, Michael, do you mean like you already are in a VM? Do you want to start building VMs within it, or what does it mean?
Yeah, possibly. But this is a completely container. What if you want to build off of an ISO? Okay, so what if their from statement is another ISO rather than a container image?
No, I think that would be a problem, right, Ettore? Like all our concept is starting always from container
Yeah,
image.
everything is a container image in Kairos world. So you have basically you start always from a container, right? From the container image, you get all the final artifacts, including raw disks image for cloud providers, like even OpenStack, for example, or ISO, but always from the same container image.
Yeah.
All right, I broke it. I mean, it seemed to do quite well. It got the cloud config, and then it was trying to dump the ISO for us.
Does it need permission to run with sudo maybe? If you're writing in a... Oh no, value too large.
Maybe the
What?
space somewhere? Maybe too large for defined.
Just to keep elaborating maybe on what Michael is asking. So if whatever distro you want to use, let's say Proxmox, I don't know how they build their images. If they don't provide a container image, then no, you would need to figure out how to create a container image out of their images first.
Yeah. But generally speaking, you can build a container image from scratch, virtually from anything. So I don't know if that explains.
Too large also.
No. So Michael, okay, now I get what your point. So Kairos is not running as a container. So the OS itself is not using a container engine to start the system. But it's rather using OCI and container images only as a delivery, a way to deliver upgrades or create artifacts. So from Proxmox, so you create a standard VM and that's it. I mean, there is no container engine running the container image. So the container image became your bootable system at that point. And from that container image, you start to build off all the other artifacts you need. And Aurora Boot, for instance, lets you build the ISOs, the raw disk images for cloud, or drives net booting installation too. So you can also use it for booting several VMs or machines that are configured to boot from the network. Well, it also supports this way, which doesn't require network configuration. So it only requires that the DHCP server support the DHCP proxy requests. So if that's true, then you don't need even to set up any TFTP server.
Nice. All right, Michael is double high-fiving, so that looks like he's happy with that answer. So, have you seen my error before?
I'm not sure. Happy to build it here if you want on my side.
What they see, it's like having permission to LCHON. So it looks like you cannot do. Can you do? Maybe it's simply because can you do sudo docker run or trying to run this as sudo just to be sure, because maybe the operation doing on build folder does require a little bit more permission. Remember, it's something weird, or you have to run privileged otherwise.
Yeah.
Because it's.
Yeah, I wonder if it would work with Podman.
This looks better, right? Stayed a bit longer already.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh no.
It's weird.
All right, I'm going to try it with Podman just because I'm curious now. I always use Podman, but I installed Docker for this just because the documentation normally mentioned it. But now I'm curious. Yeah. No, I feel like I should tidy up that build directory. And if it I can't type. If it doesn't work, it's fine. We can always pop over to your machine and take a look at that. But I am definitely curious now. So we grabbed that cloud init. But we were on the building page. So where's that Aurora bit stuff?
Oh yeah, no, that we found in the Aurora boot. No,
yes.
where was it? You took one from a different place, I think. I don't remember.
I did. You're right. I did. Building custom cloud images. Okay, so.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so you can even build the base image by starting with a vanilla distro. All right, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to be hacking together some sort of Kairos Arch hybrid now.
Yeah, I think once you're really into the hang of Kairos, this is probably the way you're going to be building most of your images.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're actually got some information here on state sizing. This feels relevant to the error message we're getting, potentially.
Ah, did we put actually the state
We didn't
size?
include, no, we didn't include a state size.
Ah, because normally we don't, I think.
Oh, and there was a cloud in it right here too. So
Oh yeah.
I got the same with Podman. Do you want to? Will I pop your screen up and we'll take a look at a working one?
Sure.
All right.
But I had prepared is actually the other type of this is H model.
So you're going to show us an upgrade to the existing one?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
So if I go here, I have an image here based on one of the Kairos existing images, and then I'm going to install, in this case, Ruby, and then I can say docker build tag, and we can call this ttl.sh Rawkode, and then we put 24 hours on it, and that. Now we push it. Oh, I don't know how long this will take. Didn't think of that, but hopefully not so much, because I was playing with it. Oh yeah, you can see that I was playing with it. Yeah. So a lot of the layers were already there.
Yeah, ttl.sh is such a great service.
Yeah.
I don't even know who's responsible for it, but I use it like every workshop or conference I go to. It's so handy.
Yeah, it's so good. I don't know how they offer it, but I'm happy that they do. Okay, so now we have this image here, right? And I can just jump into our machine that we already had here. If you remember, it was running this Kubernetes instance. And here we have the Kairos agent, and you can say upgrade source OCI, and then paste the image that you want to upgrade to.
Well, that's running. I'm curious about the immutability aspect there. So how does this work? Is it just a immutable file system? If you just toggle it and said don't accept writes, like, what's going on here?
Basically, we have this. I think the best place to go would be. I think in the documentation we have some image about how this process goes. A/B. What is it? Upgrade. But maybe you can explain in the meantime, Ettore, that way.
Yeah, basically, there are. So it works differently based on the. If the system is configured for trusted boot or not. So on trusted boot, you have the whole system as FEI files, and that means you're going to have an active and passive and a recovery FEI file in the system. Those are actually handled in this moment. If you are not using trusted boot instead, those will be images that are mounted read-only in the system, and they are images that they are created on the fly so the container image is pulled and the image file is being created from the container image in the system, and then there is an internal component that we call immucore in Kairos, which does the mounting during the boot sequence. And for instance, when it's running in trusted boot, actually immucore runs as a init system from the early stages and then hands over to systemd when hands into user mode.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is basically in a nutshell what Mauro is showing you what's going to happen.
Yeah, here you have like the active, passive, and transition image. Basically, we're putting everything like moving things around, right? Your active becomes the passive. Then what we're building is the transition image, and then once this finishes, it goes into active. That means that if for some reason this process failed, you can always go back to the previous one that was working, and then we can reboot again.
On top of that, there are also boot assessment strategies, which basically detects if the active system is not working properly, and it will select the passive. So if the upgrade here would have succeeded, but the image is bad, so it doesn't boot correctly, the system would basically detect that.
Nice. So what we should see here when you log in is that you have the Ruby tool.
Correct. Yeah. And then, like I was saying, once you get more into Kairos, you probably, Ruby-B, I think it is. Yeah, we can see that we have Ruby installed. Once you get more into Kairos, this might be a bit not the way you want to handle your images, because we have a way to keeping track of the OS. Kairos. Wait. So we have a way of keeping track of the image that you are spinning into, and you might want to have your own versioning here, right? Your own cadence. Like we release our images when we have, I don't know, new features or patches, but maybe you have a higher security level, right? Like maybe you're patching things much faster than someone else, or than us in this case. So you also can go into the, we saw this with the building from scratch guide, where you're going to be passing the version. Where did I go? I get lost a bit. Yeah, when you pass the version, this will be the version of your system that you will see here. So then you can keep your own cadence of images.
Yeah, and that's what it takes, basically. What you're seeing now, Mario is showing you, is that in just those few lines, you pull Ubuntu image as a base, and you use the Kairos init tool, which converts that image into a Kairos-based image, which what I was previously mentioning, it means that it's going to install some base packages that are needed. For instance, if it was Alpine, it would install things that are necessary for booting properly. For instance, if it's trusted boot, it would need systemd component. If it's not trusted boot, it would need grab, so it would pull grab in, these kind of things.
Cool. Very interesting.
That was this one here. So basically here we went through the whole process of maintaining the images, but yeah, at some point you obviously want to have a better way to keep in track, because you probably want to put this on your pipeline, right? You don't want to be doing those manually, which is exactly what we're doing, putting it on the pipeline. And for that, we have if you see the repository, our image is as simple. Our Docker file is this, and that's it. This produces all the different Ubuntu, OpenSUSE, with or without K3s or K0s. All the different versions are done just with this simple structure, because at the end of the day, you can base from anything you tell it to start, right?
Cool. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the project itself then, right? I'll pop us back over here. I think what we've shown people is that building your own Linux distribution for cloud in Kubernetes isn't that hard. We definitely had a few challenges. The fact that this is all based on OCI, artifact, and container files makes it easy for anyone to come along and start customizing it, which has been hard for many years, right? Nobody ever really enjoyed building virtual machine images. Or I like this. I had a quick look on GitHub. I see this is a Go project. It's open source. It's a CNCF sandbox. So, people wanted to contribute and start having some fun with Kairos. What is the best way for them to get involved and help shape the future of the project?
Yeah, I think there are many areas in where Kairos opportunities where you can get involved in the project. There is, for example, if there's a distro that we're not tackling, you could bring that in. Documentation, of course. I think the interesting part that we didn't get to talk about is that one way of installing things in Kairos is bringing in bundles. So let's say you want to have Calico already pre-installed in your Kubernetes stack. You can just say bundle and put Calico. All of that right now we have it as a community support, and so it really depends on the community to come and suggest and ideally open a PR with the project that they want to see there, and that way we can grow the different options that people can get almost from the ground when they spin up a new Kairos machine. So yeah, there are many different areas. We have, for example, office hours. You can show up and just make questions or suggestions, or like just like we're having right now this conversation. We're more than happy to have it with you, and yeah. We're open source. There are many ways in which you can come and contribute.
All right. The bundle concept is interesting. So, assuming I want to build an image that has, journal.d log forwarding baked into it, then I can configure an OCI layer that just does that. If I want to install Cilium, I'm assuming I can have something that does that. If I want to maybe I want it to have Tailscale on it, and I want it to join my tailnet, I'm assuming there could be a layer for that. How do the bundles work then? Do you have to have guarantees that they all come from the same base, or does it not really matter? I'm curious about how that works.
Bundles are basically, again, distributed as OCI images. So anybody can actually create bundles. So it doesn't really restrict in any way on how you can also distribute bundles. Right. So the bundles are a mechanism in Kairos to have additional way to supply configuration for the system, or ways how the system should change the way how it works, because it can also extend the cloud config mechanism. So with a bundle, you can read cloud config during installation, for instance, and doing other things. So bundles is the way to run configuration, and you can do that by distributing the bundle as OCI image, but also just as a simple tarbles if you really want to. So there is really no restriction. And we have a community bundles repository where community can contribute new bundles, but also providers. So, for instance, we have the kubeadmin provider, which enables Kairos to use kubeadmin, or microkates, for instance, as well. So there are other Kubernetes distribution. This is all kind of feature request, or even contribution that we are welcome to have. So even get to know where you would be interested to see more support in terms of also of Kubernetes support, but not only.
Yeah, maybe one thing that I guess is the first one I'm doing in an open source project is because normally you invite end users, right? Like, come, bring your suggestions or your or the features that you want to see in the project. But in our case, being a CNCF project, I would also invite other CNCF projects to join us because recently we had the experience that people from K0s said like, "Hey, wait, why isn't K0s like having the same level of integration as K3S, for example?" And they came and started putting PRs, and we worked together, and now the system improved thanks to that. And I think there are so many projects out there. If you see the landscape, right, like the typical joke in every presentation about the size of the landscape, but it's true. I mean, it is. There is so much. It is so hard to take the time to understand them and integrate them properly in a project. So if the people from those projects come and work together with us in this case, then Kairos can give the best experience for the Kairos users to get a glimpse on their projects as well.
Awesome, thank you. I was also scanning your bundle docs there as well. That's a really cool approach to doing this. It did raise one question, and I don't want us to go on much longer, but else we'll end up just sat here. We'll ask loads more questions. But some of these bundle ideas, and again, I'm looking at the community bundles repository as well, right? Some of these things probably need configured or need access to some sort of secret material. Is there a best path forward for working this? What is the, typically with like deploying a virtual machine or a container, some sort of handoff, right? You say, now you're a workload within this workload identity pool. You can speak to a secret managers in the cloud and do stuff that way. I'm assuming that would probably still work. But what about the edge scenarios or the bare metal scenarios? How is this a path that's been solved, a problem that's been solved yet, or not? I know that's a vague question, but I hope I kind of got that across.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I would say you have a limit, right? Like if you're talking about the edge, you could air gap everything, put it there, and you would have like this small network that the system would have access to. Of course, you would have limitations there on how if there's a password there somehow ends up in the hands of someone, you can't do much at that point. What we're working on, and there is some functionality already in Kairos, is that you can do remote attestation. So if there is connection to a server, you could potentially tell the system to not boot if you're using the trusted boot mechanism. But if you're not at that high degree of security, I would say it's very hard because at the end of the day, it's a Linux box, right? Yeah.
So I'm assuming if I wanted to do an HA Kubernetes cluster with K3S running on Kairos images, I'm just stuffing that join token into the cloud config. Is that the answer?
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? You've got to understand your security posture to make that safe to do so. I mean, this is how the cluster API project works as well. So and people won't be too disfamiliar with that.
What we've seen, for example, in a project is people who had it was an edge project and they had some sort of remote device, let's say a phone that had connection to the server, and through that connection they would allow to say, okay, if you see the connection, then the system can keep performing. If the connection is cut or you get connection to a different service, then you cannot continue performing, something like that. But you would have to come up with most of these solutions depending on the scenario. I don't think we have something out of the box per se, right, Tori?
So we have, so we don't have a mechanism to recognize hosts that are down, but we have a key management service that allows you to isolate machines of a cluster from booting. So you can basically build on top of that because it's a controller. So you can still use that in Kubernetes and control which machine are basically can boot or not boot in a cluster. So you can do this kind of hardcore configuration, I would say, if you are strict in security terms. And yeah, I mean, this is one of the most, I would say, interesting area when you are looking for security features, among also with trusted boot support that we have.
All right, I'm going to keep saying one last question, but I'm curious and I'm having fun.
Cool.
Are you actually running cloud init on a machine, or is your Kairos agent responsible for handling that?
Running
Cloud data.
Are you actually running cloud init, or is the Kairos agent consuming the cloud config and executing it?
Oh, it's the Kairos agent consuming the cloud config. Yeah, it's not the real cloud init. No, it's very. So we provide. Yeah, it's a very good question. It's like we provide a compatibility layer to cloud init, basically.
Yeah, that's amazing, because that means that instead of stuffing secrets into my cloud config, I mean, I could contribute something to the Kairos agent that could pull the cloud config remotely, and then I can make assertions against MAC addresses and say, okay, you are allowed to have. Obviously, it's slightly better posture. It's not great, but one step at a time, right? So I've got ideas. Yeah. I've got ideas.
Very good point. Yeah.
All right. I don't want to take up any more of your time. We've been at this now for nearly an hour and a half. I would just say, firstly, it's such a cool project. The smile on my face throughout this has been completely genuine. I can't wait to start kicking the tires and having fun with this. I would also say the documentation has been fantastic. I don't think there's ever been a time where I've asked a question that Maro's not been able to open the docs page and say, oh, here's the thing here. And that is very rare for a project. So kudos on that.
Nice.
Let's assume the people watching this, they're smiling too. They want to check this out. They know you're a CNCF sandbox project, right? There's a lot of them these days. They might want some confidence that there's forward momentum with the project. Maybe you can give us an idea just in the last few minutes about what is the future and the roadmap for Kairos, and yeah, anything else you can share would be fantastic.
Yes, basically, most of the focusing point would be on streamlining the factory usage of Kairos. So what you have just been going with the documentation, like building images, is going to be streamlined a lot. So we didn't show it off today, but we are working on a web UI that lets you build every combination of artifacts. So you start from a container image, you go through this very high level process where you get all the artifacts you need, including also things like, again, I keep repeating, but trusted boot, but it's in that sense, when we talk about trusted boot, things get complex quickly when you have to deal with building artifacts. So it's something very much appreciated when you look at that. And with that, also, we are planning to have our own Kairos operator, which provides the compatibility layer with CAPI. So currently, we don't have our own operator in doing that. We rely on system upgrade controller for doing upgrades in Kubernetes. But we are just using it as a tool because, of course, it's providing the features that we need for doing the upgrades. And yeah, we are going to have our own solution on top of that allows us to pilot that also from a CAPI perspective and integrate with our factory lane. So that's very much important. So you can start from defining your OS to having bootstrapped bare metal clusters too, with almost zero configuration. So this is our vision, going to the process from build from scratch, the system you want, keep repeating that as many times you want for doing automated upgrades and consume that from the cluster.
Nice. All right. Well, again, thank you so much for your time, both of you. Any final parting words?
Thank you, Dave. Actually, thank you. Thank you for your time. It was very nice.
That was a lot of fun.
Guess, yeah. And I mean, I'm happy that documentation kind of worked today. No, I mean, jokes aside, I mean, thank you a lot for your time.
Yeah, much appreciated. It was a good time. Have fun, and if you need help with Kairos, just join our channels, and we're there in the CNCF Slack. Just reach out.
All right. Well, thank you again for your time. Thank you to everyone who watched. All of the links to the channels, the GitHubs, etc., will be in the description very, very soon. And yeah, have a great day and a great rest of your week. And we'll see you all next time. Thanks.
You too.
Ciao.
Thank you. Ciao.
We've explored the cloud native way. Kairos showed us how to play. Edge to cloud and bare metal to OS lifecycle made brand new. Thanks for watching Rawkode Academy and Rawkode Live today. Kairos keeps your systems running strong. Hope you enjoyed our open source song. Distro agnostic, unified API, community driven, reaching for the sky. From the project creators to the Q&A,